What's up, everybody? Welcome into Catfish and Ice. It's episode 271 of the podcast with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. Right in the middle of the offseason here. Taking some spaces between episodes lately. We apologize for that. But a lot to get into tonight with the draft that happened. And a lot of people are up in arms a little bit about how that draft class went. I'm not on that train there. I had to process it. You know, we all get really overly emotional, especially when you're talking about the fact that the Preds had a 5th overall draft pick, which has not happened very often in this franchise's history, which is really hard to believe, honestly. But 5th overall pick, so everyone was wanting James Hague. They were wanting Porter Martone. They get Brady Martin. And on draft night, Max, everyone was like so mad.
Yeah.
And it's like the pitchforks really came out. And even though I was not crazy about the pick, I was like, can we call up the dogs a little bit here? Can we calm down a little bit? I mean, this guy, we're talking about a 5th overall draft pick. He was rated top 10 by most scouts. So, yeah, maybe it was a reach by a couple picks here and there. I get it. You don't pick 5th overall very often. We just suffered through a very painful season. I get all that. But the reaction, hey, I don't care. Like, I might get some bad comments from this. I've already gotten bad comments from this. The reaction from our fellow fan base was pretty rough, honestly. I mean, I'm calling you guys out. It was pretty bad. Pretty bad.
I was at Bridgestone the night that the draft happened, and when they made the pick, pretty much the whole arena went silent. It was pretty rough.
I get it. Like, he was not rated to be picked 5th overall. And there's a lot of scouts who had him 8th pick or 9th pick or 10th pick or whatever, or 7th pick. There were some mock drafts that actually had him picked 4th. And the last episode we did, we talked about this. There was no agreement in this draft. There really wasn't. So, look, I didn't like the reaction from the fans, my fellow fans. And I was one of them in the sense that I wasn't crazy about the pick. I wanted Porter Martone. I wanted James Hague. It's going to take a few years to really know who made the right decision. So we don't know. None of us can sit here now and say who made the right choice. But what I'm trying to say is I didn't like the reaction from the fan base. Like, I really didn't. Like, I mean, they kind of came out like they hated this guy from the start. And it's like, this guy is hopefully going to be a franchise player. And you're already starting this off on a really sour note. So I didn't like that.
No, I totally get it. You know, I'm kind of with you in the sense that I definitely wanted James Hague or Porter Martone. I mean, they were right there. And I thought it was pretty annoying how they went literally the next 2 picks. It was Martone, then Hague. But, you know, I wasn't thrilled at the time. And I mean, but I still can kind of see, well, first of all, Chad, you're absolutely right in the sense that, like, no one's going to know for years, you know, if this pick was truly a good pick or not, and if we made the right decision. But, you know, I like the, you know, but I certainly, you know, I see what, you know, what Brady Martin brings. You know, he's a high motor guy, plays a physical game, he plays really hard. Drew a lot of comparisons to Sam Bennett, who just had a really, who just won the Conn Smythe Trophy for the Stanley Cup. And, you know, it's one of those things where it wouldn't have been my first choice. I wasn't thrilled at the time either. I tried to be as rational as I could. And I'm being open to Brady Martin. And I definitely see what Barry Trotz was thinking. My biggest concern, though, is my biggest concern, I could be totally wrong, is he one of those kind of like higher floor, maybe lower ceiling kind of guys? That's where I'm kind of like, for the 5th overall pick, I don't know. But again, I'm going to be open to it.
Well, that's the jumping off point right there, is you're picking 5th overall. So there it is right there. And this is This is leaking into 2024 as well on the screen here. But you look at there's the draft class there from 2025. Brady Martin, 5th overall. Look, so here's how I feel about it. I really like Cameron Reed at 21. I mean, I mocked him in an article as someone I wanted. So I'm happy to get Cameron Reed there. I think that's a good pick. But look, this is all subjective. I mean, even the experts, if they're being honest with you, will tell you this is all subjective. But look, I had to process it. When it happened, I was pretty upset about taking Brady Martin.
That's what I was too.
I was, because I thought that Barry Trotz was overthinking it like he always does. But at the same time, he is smarter than us. Let's hope he is.
I sure hope.
And so when you look at and I said this that exact night. I said this. I said let's remove James Hagen's and Porter Martone out of the equation for a second. Let's just pretend like those guys don't exist. And let's just look at Brady Martin, the player. He's a damn good player. I mean, he's a player that fits the style that the old school Predators used to have. And they used to have a bunch of them. And if he can come in, I get it. 5th overall pick, whatever. But if he can come in and be that player, but let's not forget that Brady Martin actually has that captain-like tendencies.
Yeah.
That I think that's what really put it over the edge for Barry Trotz. Is this guy he has no baggage. Everyone has baggage. Let me rephrase that. Every human being on this earth has baggage.
Yeah.
But let me say, Brady Martin on the surface, when you're drafting a player, quote unquote, doesn't have any baggage. He is a straight on type of player. And I think that that's what Barry Trotz values more than just that blockbuster raw skill and there are some scouts out there who have said, hey, wouldn't have been my pick, but it's still a really good pick. So let's not pretend like this is just some horrible pick. And look, the draft was very volatile this year. That's what made it so interesting and so fun, that it was very unpredictable. And so James Hagens is very undersized. That's the reason why Barry Trotz didn't take him. And Trotz has a higher value on bigger physical forwards. It's that simple. You can disagree with him. You can sit here right now today and say Trotz is going to be wrong. James Hagens is going to turn out to be the next, like Luke Hughes or whoever, because that's who he's compared to. Undersized, skilled, scoring forward. Okay. It's not an exact science. No one knows. We will find out in a few years who was right and who was wrong. But where we're sitting right now, on paper, Brady Martin is still not a bad pick. It's not a scrub pick. It's a little overreach based on what the scouts say. But it's not an exact science. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, absolutely. And, once again, it's just one of those things where, again, part of the reason, why I tried in the moment as I could to, be as calm, cool, collected. One of the things that I did say, and again, we've said it a few minutes ago, but it's like, we don't know how these picks are going to pan out. And like you said, it's not an exact science. And it's not like this is a guy that was taken someone that was like a projected second rounder. No, a lot of scouts had him ranked high. So again, it could be worse. It could be worse. 10. Wouldn't have been my pick. It could be worse.
He was ranked top 10. And I think where the anger comes from, and I agree with these. I agree with this. The anger comes from the Predators have not really picked this high a lot in recent memory. I think it was 2013. They took Seth Jones 4th overall. Right. So, I mean, you have no Stanley Cups to your resume. You've been really good in the regular season. You've never really had the opportunity to pick this high in the draft. You finally get that chance, and everyone bought the Kool-Aid on James Higgins, Porter Martone, and I'm not saying those are bad players. Those would probably be good players too. Everyone said this was a very top 10 heavy draft class. Top 10. If you're picking in the top 10, you're probably going to get a good player. That was kind of like the overall consensus.
Yeah.
After you got out of that realm, you're taking a lot of chances. You're taking a lot of risk. There's talent to be had, but you're taking a lot of risk. The more I look at it, Brady Martin is a really safe pick. He doesn't have maybe as high of a ceiling as James Higgins or Porter Martone or even Roger McQueen, who another who was still with the injury.
I'll take Brady Martin any day over Roger McQueen and his injury concerns.
So what I'm saying is Brady Martin is a workhorse. He is a guy who scouts say he hones in on all of his skills, future captain material. I think that the Predators and Barry Trotz looked at it as a long-term future pick, and Trotz has already said in his latest media availability addressing this that Brady Martin could push for a roster spot. Now, maybe that's political talk. We don't know. We'll see. But that's kind of interesting, man. I mean, that's kind of like taking a subtle shot at the current roster, Max.
Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it personally. I don't see that happening, but maybe it does. I don't know.
Look, training camp's going to be very interesting, Max. We know that.
Yep.
And it should be. You're talking about a team that went from a trendy Stanley Cup favorite. I'm not saying everyone was picking them to win the Stanley Cup last year when they got Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea, and they were bringing Forsberg back. They had Yossi. They had UC Saros. They had all these guys that on paper they looked really strong. There were some people who were putting out hot takes to pick the Predators to at least go to the Stanley Cup, and they turn around and finish 30th in the overall league standings. But the point is, you take a team like that, and you look at what they're at now, they should have all the competition in the world when it comes to training camp. No one on that roster should feel safe. Everyone better bring it in training camp. They should be so pissed off right now that when training camp comes, they should treat it like it's the playoffs. I know that sounds so corny. That sounds so cliche, but they should treat it that way. They better. I mean, that's what fans want to see at this point, Max.
Yeah.
They want to see guys with a chip on their shoulder again. That's how they used to play. That's how this franchise used to be. And then I don't know what happened. I don't know where the shift happened. I don't know if it was when they won the President's Trophy. That's kind of where I see it changed. It wasn't even when they won the Stanley Cup. When they won the President's Trophy and they lifted that banner, and I get sick of those banner jokes as much as anybody, but that's kind of where it shifted for me.
That I would agree, honestly. Yeah,
because they won that when they won the President's Trophy that year. Everyone kind of put this team on a pedestal because they just went to the Cup final. They lost to Sidney Crosby and the Penguins, who repeated that year.
Yep.
It was like, you know what? Everyone gave them a pat on the back. Everyone gave the Nashville Predators a pat on the back for losing to Sidney Crosby's Penguins. They were a magical story. They were the darling of the NHL, the underdog. I remember being in downtown Nashville in Printer's Alley the night they beat the Ducks and they clinched. We were running around like idiots, like we just won the Stanley Cup. We didn't even know who we were playing yet. The Senators and the Penguins hadn't even finished their series yet.
Mm-mm.
And it's just like, but the next year, they win the President's Trophy. They march through the regular season, and they lose in the second round in 7 games, hard-fought series to the Winnipeg Jets. So, we all know how it goes. That's kind of where it shifted for this franchise because the window, David Poile, who was still in charge, did his damnedest to keep this Stanley Cup window open and made some bad decisions. Out of desperation, maybe. I don't know what you want to call it. But here we are now, and we have to deal with that. And Trotz seems to be finally coming to the table and saying, yeah, I'm going to give these guys a chance to perform. So let's get into this. Like Brady Martin, first of all, I think he deserves every opportunity to get on this roster. And we need to be putting all the heat on these guys. But who's he going to take a spot from, Max? I mean, realistically.
I mean, if he takes one from Fedor Svechkov, that's a really bad sign.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't.
What about because Colton Sissons is gone?
Right.
You just went out and got
that.
You just went out and got Eric Holla. So what does that tell you? That would be like weird.
I wouldn't even be sure that at least at this point, I don't know that Brady Martin would beat up Michael McCarron for a roster spot. Like, I don't see it happening personally. I mean, but I'm hoping if it does, I'm hoping it's a really good sign that he's beating out one of the like McCarron or Holla.
That's where I'm getting at.
I don't see it.
If he beats out Michael McCarron, I will be all for it.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening.
Let's be honest about this for a second. What does Michael McCarron do for your current team right now? Where is he getting you? Like, he could be really good for another NHL team, but I'm talking about the Nashville Predators and where they are in their current state and where they're going. Let's be realistic about this. Why would you give Michael McCarron a spot over Brady Martin when you already need to come to realization with where you are as a franchise? That's where I'm at. So if Brady Martin goes into this training camp and performs like Barry Trotz is claiming he is, that's the guy. That's the guy he takes a spot from. I mean, unless you're just going to admit that you made a stupid move to go get Eric Holla, which I'm still completely confused by that pickup to begin with. Colton Sissons is gone, so that's one center you've already lost, even though he, at this point in his career, he really wasn't a center anymore. Like, I mean, he could play it, but my point is, like, if you really have that much belief in Brady Martin, like they're saying, why not? Why not go? I mean, I don't think Michael McCarron does that much for you. If your long-term belief is that you're gonna be back in the playoffs competing in the next year or two, Michael McCarron is not a player I look at like, yeah, we got to have him if we're going to do that. I just don't look at it that way. So, like, he's expendable to me. Michael McCarron is totally expendable to me. It doesn't mean that I don't think he's a good player. He could be a good player for another team, but I would not lose sleep over it if Brady Martin takes Michael McCarron's spot tomorrow. Won't lose sleep over it at all. He is so overrated. He is so overrated.
I certainly wouldn't lose sleep if Brady Martin got McCarron's spot. But, you know, McCarron's one of those players. Again, he's not going to – again, I get what you're saying about him maybe being for being better for another team than the Preds. But Michael McCarron, I still think he's a useful guy to have. If nothing else, have him as a stopgap. I know there's this excitement around Brady Martin. I know that, you know, we'd love to get him in the lineup. But being realistic, it's probably not going to happen. You know, you want You still don't want to rush these guys. So even though they're first round picks, you don't want to rush him there. You also have to ask yourself, is giving Brady Martin fourth line minutes really even doing him any good? So that's a consideration there. And one other thing I'll say about
let me push back on that a second. You take a guy 5th overall, you can't treat this guy with kid gloves. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I mean, you take a guy 5th overall in the position you were in. I'm not saying you have to force him into the role if he's not ready for it. But if he goes into training camp and he just absolutely, that's what I'm trying to get at. In training camp, if he just absolutely takes it and seizes it, you have to give it to him. And I think there's been plenty of examples in the past in the NHL where guys do prove it in the NHL in training camp, and they do try to be very careful with these guys, because I get it. I understand the belief system, and I understand it in terms of we can't rush these talented young guys into the NHL because their confidence is going to be blasted. They're going to get in there. They're not going to get a lot of minutes. They're going to get like 10 minutes a game. They're going to be buried in the lineup. I get all that. But when you pick a guy 5th overall after the season you just endured, all bets are off. You got to let this guy come in and cook in training camp. And if he does enough to overtake a Michael McCarron in training camp, you can't just walk up to it and be like, you did really good, Brady. You did really good. You actually did better than Michael. But we're going to go with Michael here because he's the veteran. He's proven. The Predators aren't in that position right now. If Brady goes into training camp and cooks, you give it to him. That's where I'm getting at. He has to prove it. I'm not saying you just give it to him automatically, but I'm saying Michael McCarron and other guys need to be on notice, is what I'm saying.
I hear that. We're all disagree to a certain extent. Is that, number one, it's kind of slight doubt that he does come in and just seizes it right away. Again, I just want to wait to see if that happens before I really say, because again, he is still really raw. And also there is, and look, I get it would certainly look weird if, he comes out, dominates all that in training camp, doesn't get a spot right away. I get that. One area where I kind of push back a little on that is that no matter how well you do in training camp does not replicate games. And here's one scenario I can see making sense. If Brady Martin does really well in training camp, and Barry Trotz, Andrew Brunette, all the organization sits him down and says, "Look, you've done really well here, but we just want to be extra sure because training camp does not replicate games. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you to Milwaukee for maybe 5-10 games. Like, get your feet wet. You prove what you showed there. You'll be up really quick. But we just want to be extra sure." That's where because I just I
actually think that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. Let's be real. If it's 5-10 games in Milwaukee, is Brady Martin really missing that much? I don't think it's
I think he's going to dominate Milwaukee. If he goes there, he's going to dominate.
I would rather have the peace of mind knowing that he did well in training camp and Milwaukee before I bring him to NHL.
Well, that's fair. But I guess the only disagreement me and you have, Max, is the fact that how long it's going to take. The guy is going to cook in Milwaukee. He is going to, if he goes there, I'm not saying there's any damage done if he goes there. And so in that regard, I do see where you're coming from, Max. My thought process is the Predators aren't one of those teams right now where they need to be reserving spots. And I think me and you both have a big disagreement right now on the value of Michael McCarron. I'm sorry, but we do. And that's fair. I mean, that's fine. Like everyone has a different value on certain players, especially when it comes to bottom 6 players. Look, Michael McCarron, I think he plays a good role in terms of he plays a role that's very easy to find on the open market. Let me just throw it out there there for you. When he's on your team, Of course, he's very likable because guess what? Hockey fans love big guys who will stand up for a younger player or a star forward. He gets in your face mask. He gets in the mix. He can fight. He's a big guy. He's likable. I get all that. Guess what? I'm going to drop it for you, everybody. They are a dime a dozen. No one in this league is talking about Michael McCarron. No one. None of the other teams in this league are talking about Michael McCarron. He is not that big of a deal. So when I look at a team like the Predators, are we really taking a spot from our 5th overall draft pick? If he proves it in training camp, that's a big if. If he goes into training camp and Brady Martin does not show those quality skills that Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett are looking for, then of course you don't just give it to him. He has to show it. He has to show it against the big dogs on this team. Ryan O'Reilly, Roman Yossi, all these guys, Brady Shea. He's going to have to go out there against those veterans, and I hope those veterans give it to him like he's an opponent. They need to go out there. That's what I'm trying to say to everybody. This team needs to go into training camp like it's the Stanley Cup playoffs. They need to treat their own like they're an opponent. That's how this training camp needs to go. It needs to get ugly. It needs to get nasty. That's how I feel about this. And when Brady Martin comes trotting in, like I'm going to take your roster spot, I need them to treat him like he's an opponent. And if he goes up against them and he proves himself, I'm not reserving a spot for Michael McCarron. I'm sorry, I'm not. I mean, I don't even know why Eric Holla is on this team right now. But he's another one. This team is so far away from a Stanley Cup right now that why are we reserving spots for guys that aren't going to help us win a Stanley Cup? And Michael McCarron is not going to help us win a Stanley Cup. He's a place setter. He's a normal guy who can do what a lot of guys can do in the bottom 6 and on every other team.
No one's going to disagree with no one's going to disagree with the notion that as a player, Michael McCarron is the epitome of a replaceable 4th line guy. Here's what I will say though, as far as what he brings, he is a stopgap on this roster, which granted, for the sake of pure competition and what the team of the Preds are, that makes sense to have. And next point I'll make too about why a player like Michael McCarron might be good to have around, and I might get a lot of eye rolls for saying this, but I remember when the Preds gave Michael McCarron a 2-year extension back in the February 2024. Andrew Burnett said something along the lines of Michael McCarron being like a big brother for the older guys in the locker room. And I'm inclined to believe that because, and I wrote an article on this too, is a few years ago, he was in the NHL player assistance program and came back and he persevered through it. So I can see him being kind of one of those guys who can, be kind of a perseverance story, provide some perspective for the young guys too. So that in itself, I think, could be good from a locker room standpoint. Again, I certainly don't think you need to reserve a spot for him. That I'm not going to argue. But I think it's good, again, to have him as a stopgap to provide that competition. And again, to provide some, maybe slight mentorship in the locker room to some of those young guys, just from like a mindset standpoint. And again, I understand, Brady Martin can come in and dominate training camp, but I'm not, again, I guess where I still feel we disagree at this point is I'm not so in love at this point with just because if he dominates at training camp means he should get a roster spot right away.
Well, for me, it depends on how much he dominates over the other guys.
Right.
Because here's how I feel about this roster right now. You're a 30th place team right now, so no one should feel safe. No one should. So if you go into that training camp and you got other guys who aren't bringing it, then all bets are off. That's just, I'm old school like that. That's just how I feel about it. There's no leeway here. And I'll take it to the corporate world. I'll take it to the professional world. There's always somebody who's coming to try to take your job. And if you're not willing to perform at the highest level, then some other young buck's going to come up and take your job. I'm old school in that way. And that's how I feel about where the Predators are right now. The Predators are a failing company. If we're thinking capitalist thinking right now, the Predators are a failing company. And you've got a CEO who's failing right now. And Barry Trotz, he knows it. and you're looking down at all the people who you are over, and you cannot let a repeat performance of last season happen this season, especially considering that Barry Trotz has not waved the white flag. He thinks that this team could be – that's just political talk. I've said this in previous episodes. It's all politics. But what I'm saying is, if you really feel that way, then no one's safe. No one should be. I mean, this team was a complete embarrassment, laughing stock. It was the worst year I've ever had watching this damn team. And I've watched this team since it moved to Nashville, since it became a team in Nashville. So, I mean, yeah, when I see a Brady Martin come in and I want to see what he can do. I mean, what do you have to lose? Oh, you're going to be 31st instead of 30th this year? Like, what do you have to lose at this point? I mean, Michael McCarron is – I'm not trying to pick on Michael McCarron. The only reason I'm picking on Michael McCarron is because he plays center, and this team has no centers to begin with. So it's like I'm trying to be realistic here. Brady Martin's not going to take a spot from Ryan O'Reilly. He's not going to take a spot from Steven Stamkos. He's probably not going to take a spot from Fedor Svechkov. As you just said, Max, if he did that, that would be a really bad sign.
Yeah.
So I'm not really trying to pick on Michael McCarron. All I'm trying to say is, and Joel just put up a really good comment here. Let me put it back up. Martin can only play in Nashville or go back to CHL. He's not eligible for Milwaukee this year because he's under 20.
Huh.
And that is true. I've seen that as well.
Okay.
And so that makes it even more complicated. I mean, like
things.
Yeah, so it's like if Brady Martin goes back, yeah, he's going to dominate there. And I'm not saying that's bad for him and it won't work out. I'm just saying that it's all predicated on how he looks in training camp. So this is a big if for me. I'm not just saying give it to him. I'm not saying hand it to him. I'm saying like put him through the grinder. Treat him like a 5th overall pick, just like it works in the NFL or any other sport. Make him prove that he's the 5th overall pick in a draft. And I need every guy in that Preds locker room who he can take a roster spot from, including Steven Stamkos and Fedor Svechkov and Ryan O'Reilly. I need all of them to compete against this kid and give him the rough business and say, hey, kid, you think you're really ready for the NHL? Come prove it against us. That's how this franchise needs to act right now. Because everyone on this team should enter this training camp being completely pissed off. And I'm sick of seeing this team act like they're not pissed off. Like they don't care. Like, oh, we tried our best. Oh, gosh darn it. We tried our hardest. I'm sick of it. And fans are jumping off right now. And they've got one chance this season to really, really show it. And when you see a Brady Martin, I hope this kid comes in like a wrecking ball. And I hope that I don't care whether he makes the team initially. I hope what he does is gives this franchise a spark. I hope he comes into training camp and pushes these veterans who seem so lackadaisical, so chill. Like they don't care. Like they don't care. Like they're just like, oh yeah, we had, it's like, I hope that a 30th place finish in the NHL will wake up some of these guys. I hope it wakes up Phil Forsberg. I hope it wakes up some of these guys and think, damn, we don't want to go through that again. We don't want to put our fans through that again. We don't want to put Smashville through that again. And I hope Brady Martin comes in here and is a wrecking ball that wakes everyone up and says, hey, this kid's coming along. He's ready to win. He's ready to put it all on the line. And if he goes out in there and the coaches and Barry Trotz notices that some of these guys are shaken and Brady Martin's outperforming them, I'm okay with it. But we'll see. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm as excited as I can be when to come off a season like that. But when it comes to the draft class, other than Brady Martin, I mean, I like Cameron Reed. I think that was a really, really strong pick. They needed a defenseman in that pick. I thought Cameron Reed was going to go mid-teens, like 15, 16. He's an offensive defenseman. He does play on the left side, but a lot of the draft grades out there are rating Cameron Reed as one of the top steals in the draft. So the Preds kind of made up for that one. They don't take a goalie high up in the draft, Max. They did take a goalie.
The top 100 they did.
They did take a later, but they didn't take the goalie that everyone thought they were going to take. They go heavy on defense, though.
I forgot honestly who was the goaltender people were thinking of again?
Yeah, he's got like a really hard name to pronounce. It starts with an R. We'll get back to you on that. But they still get a really good goalie. And so they get their goalie. A long ways to go. When you draft a goalie that way back, I mean, it's going to take a while before you ever see him in the NHL.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think that they had an overall really good draft class. And as we know, when it comes to NHL draft classes, it takes a long time to bear the fruits of your draft classes.
Yeah.
So I do think that Brady Martin's a guy who will be with the Predators within the next year, if not the next 2 seasons.
Yeah.
That's going way, like being super conservative. I think
and I certainly want to see Brady Martin play this year.
I know you do.
Yeah.
No, we just have a little bit of a disagreement on how fast he'll be.
Yeah, I'm a little on if it should be right away.
So let's talk about this. Let's get into the offseason additions that the Preds have made to their defense.
Yep.
And let's talk first about Nicolas Hague, who everyone thought at first he would be a bottom 3 defenseman or third pairing defenseman. Trotz has said, no, he's a top 4.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And you've got all these guys saying that they can play right or left side. They're willing to do that. Hague's one of them. You end up trading Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lazan to the Vegas Golden Knights. Some people kind of feel like you basically gave away Colton Sissons because Lazan and Hague are like a 1-for-1 swap.
I was kind of on that until I realized that we got a pick in return.
There you go.
The pick kind of sweetened it a little for me, especially that if it becomes a second rounder, then I think that actually becomes much more palatable on paper.
Not to mention, you had to figure out any way you could to unload Colton Sissons.
Yeah.
Because you did not want to go into this season with Colton Sissons on this roster. He probably was not going to perform very highly enough to improve his draft stock or his trade stock. And that's coming from a guy who loves Colton Sissons. His trade value was only going to get lower and lower, probably. It definitely wasn't going to get better. Very unlikely. So
we've seen some GMs pay some crazy trade deadline prices. I could have seen a little something, but I see what you're saying, though.
You had to unload him if you could.
I agree.
Now, the weird part about this trade is not really Colton Sissons, it's Jeremy Lazan. Because he was hurt all of last year, mostly.
Yep.
And so it was very unclear what his future was with this team. And so to trade him away to get another defenseman who plays
very similar,
exceedingly
similar.
That's what's odd to me. It's not.
Yeah, I agree.
Traded. It's like, we all figured he was probably going to be traded at some point. But it's kind of weird. But maybe it honestly just tells me that the organization and Barry Trotz was not that high on Jeremy Lazan.
Or that they're really high on Nick Hague for whatever reason. I mean, they signed him to and that's where I'm still kind of losing it a little. It's like that big of a contract for Nick Hague.
Joel on Facebook says they need to let some of these kids play with the vets to learn on the fly. Playing a potential scoring forward on the fourth line as a receipt for another Tomasino or Tolvanen.
That's kind of what I was saying a little bit ago.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, looking at like the Nick Hague deal, I mean, again, like I started to get more with it, when I saw that the draft pick was involved, but that contract is just that's such an overpayment, at least at this time. That's crazy to me.
I mean, they did spend a little bit of their cap room to get him.
Yeah. That's $5.5 million a year. That's a lot.
But they're really high on Nick Hague. I mean, that's just really.
He played in a much bigger role last year, and like all his like underlying numbers went way down.
I mean, it seems to me that Barry Trotz was a big believer to fix this team. His big belief was we've got to fix the defense. We got to protect UC Saros, and we are going to do that. We're gonna build a better defense in front of UC Saros, and this entire organization has gone to bat for UC Saros, saying this was not Saros's fault last year. Like, his down season was because he had a Swiss cheese of a defense in front of him.
Yeah, an AHL level defense near the end of the year.
Which I know you have a lot to say about Nick Blankenburg, so we're going to get to that. But let's talk about this, Max. So we were talking about training camp, and I was talking about Brady Martin. But really, the crazy roster competition in training camp is going to be all about the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, let's think about this, man. I mean, first of all, we all hope and pray that Roman Josi, who's dealing with a really, really complicated medical condition, they say he's ready to play, but he's got the condition that causes him to have trouble getting up and down quickly. And you think about how a hockey player plays and how you're constantly doing that. And at his advanced age, you really worry about, is this his last year? Will he be able to push through? Neither me or Max are doctors, so we're not going to try to speculate on what we think is going to happen. All we can say is we both hope that he can. Listen, everybody, Roman Josi is not far removed from being an 80-plus point defenseman. He could do it again if he's healthy. If he is healthy, I have every belief in my body that Roman Josi, if he is healthy, can be an 80-plus point defenseman.
Yeah,
this season. But it's all about his health. And his health is his most important thing, and it's a very scary injury with his head and diagnosis. And all I care about is that the guy protects himself. And I mean, I'm really worried about him taking another brutal hit against the boards.
Even without the syndrome he's dealing with. I mean, it's not like he's not dealt with injuries before. He's been fairly injured in his career, which is scary as he gets older, especially concussions.
So, like, every game I watch, I'm going to be like on pins and needles, worried about Roman Josi taking a brutal hit.
I mean, he was saying, I don't remember if it was him or someone else who was saying that at the end of this past year, like in April, his concussion was still lingering a little bit, which is, I mean, again, we're not doctors or anything, so we're not going to, at least I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, this or that, but like, I mean, it's just kind of, it's a little unsettling is all I can say.
He's 35 years old with 3 years left on his current contract. Obviously, all we care about is that Roman Josi is healthy, and he outside of hockey, that's what's most important to us. But just looking at the hockey terms of it, we'll just have to wait and see. We don't know, but let's just assume he will be there and he's ready, like the team says he is, and he has said he is. But you look at this defense right now, Max, and you got a lot of guys saying they're willing to play on either side. So that makes it really hard to predict, right?
It goes back to some of that kind of political talk.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, it's hard to predict who's going to play on what side to predict this defense. Like, I mean, like Brady Shea can play either side. Roman Yossi can play either side.
Yeah, Brady Shea play either side?
I mean, they're all saying that from what I've read.
Again, the last time I'll be like, is that every guy being like, oh, I'll do whatever for the team? Like, I don't know if each guy can really play either side. I don't know.
The way I feel about it is I think that assuming Roman Yossi is medically cleared and he is ready, he will obviously be on the top pairing.
Right.
And that's the biggest question is who is going to play with Roman Yossi? I've seen Brady Shea thrown out there. I don't think that's the best option.
No, not again.
Well, you play Brady Shea on the left. Roman Yossi can play on the right.
Right, and they've done it before and it didn't work.
Exactly. So what is your solution right now, Max? Or do you not have one? Does no one have one?
I got one. Nick Blankenberg.
On the top pairing?
That was my whole article was about.
I read it, but I still don't agree with it.
Yeah, I'm going with it.
I mean, maybe they don't have a better option.
I don't think they do. I straight up don't think they do.
I do. I'll give you this. I like Blankenberg more than I like Justin Barron.
Yeah, I like him. I would even over Nick Perbix. We haven't really talked about. I put him over Nick Perbix because Perbix played mainly depth. And here's
what you didn't bring Perbix in to be. And first of all, I was very happy with that addition.
Yeah, I was too.
But he is not a top pairing defenseman.
No.
We all know that.
And here's what I say about Blankenberg, and a point I specifically made in my article. Like, we're not talking about Blankenberg coming in for like a few games and like playing some good playing well in some sheltered minutes. No, this guy came and played legitimate minutes against over what was it, like 4 or 5 months of a season. He played basically the full year. Showed skill, analytics were good, eye test was good, and I think he's the best option as far as the right shot defenseman. And I don't see I don't see anyone else on the left side bringing enough value to where it makes more sense to put Yossi on that pair with Blankenberg. And I guess I'm kind of losing what I'm saying. Point is, I think when you evaluate all the pros and cons, I think Blankenberg is the best option. And some other points I made in my article is Blankenberg's his defensive numbers were good. And two, you also got to wonder if Yossi's abilities are going to naturally decline with age. Blankenberg has that mobility. He can play the 200-foot game. That kind of makes sense there. And I just think when you evaluate all the pros and cons, evaluate the other right shot defensemen, what the other left shot guys could bring, and if that really makes enough sense, I think Blankenberg's your guy. But I don't even know if he's going to be on the roster in October.
So I think what we're getting at here is the Predators are in a really big pickle right now when it comes to that position, even with what they've done in the offseason. But our friend Boyd says neither was Fabro when Yossi had 96 points.
I think he's saying neither was Fabro a top pairing guy, really.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I mean, and that's kind of like a subjective term. It's like if you're playing with a really good elite defenseman, you can kind of like put someone up there who complements that guy and kind of get away with it. But as you just said, Max, Yossi's natural decline in age makes you wonder if you put someone like Blankenberg or anyone up, we don't even know. That's what I'm saying. So here's what I think the Predators are going to do. I'm not necessarily saying I agree with this. I think that they're going to roll with Brady Shea and Roman Yossi on the top pairing. Probably. I really do.
Or Hague, honestly.
Hague's probably the next best bet. You're right.
That's probably, honestly, my honest prediction on what will happen. That's probably my prediction.
But there's going to be a lot, like when it comes to training camp and figuring it out. Justin Barron has a lot to prove, obviously.
Yeah. His underlying numbers are better than I expected. I will say that.
Blankenberg has a lot to prove. Not that he didn't prove it last season. I have said this multiple times. Nick Blankenberg was one of the few players on this Nashville Predators team who actually overperformed their preseason expectations.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely.
And I going down the tail end of last season, you know how hard it was to watch the Nashville Predators play every night? And I work a night job. You know this, Max. There's nights where and I'm in the Eastern time zone.
Yeah.
So there were nights where I was staying up till 3 p.m. Eastern time to watch the Predators shit the bed and lose another game. But let me tell you, I kept watching them, one, because we do this podcast, but two, because I do love this team. And every night, there would be nights where I would watch this team pretty much understanding that they were probably going to lose. But I was very excited to watch Nick Blankenburg.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from, Max. I really liked watching Nick Blankenburg play, and I really hope he earns himself a spot on this team again. Yeah. I appreciate the way the guy plays. He plays like a forward.
Yeah. The only knock I really have on Nick Blankenburg, which he cannot control, is he's undersized, but he's still fairly gritty for his size. Like, he's not afraid to, like, be physical if he has to. Like, that's my only knock. When that's your only knock.
So Boyd's throwing out his pairings, and I really appreciate Boyd's opinion.
Yeah.
Dude's very, very knowledgeable on this team.
Absolutely.
And so he has Yossi Hague. There you go there.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Shea Barron. And then third pairing is a Wilsby, Blankenburg / Mollendijk. So a little bit of competition there.
Also, what the hell is going to happen with Adam Wilsby?
Well, I think that goes to training camp. I think he's another one who he's another one who he hit the injury bug last season. He was playing really good. He had a really short sample size.
Yep.
But everything he's done in Milwaukee and in his journey to get to the Predators has been really good, spot on.
Yeah.
So he's a big X factor for me, is Adam Wilsby. And then you still got Spencer Stastny hanging around. Like, you still got, it's loaded.
Is Spencer Stastny even considered any, I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but is he really in consideration?
I don't know. The fact that he missed time for personal reasons last year that we never got answers to, which we don't deserve answers to.
No.
It was his personal life. It's none of our business. But my point is, we have to be factual here, and that did hurt his momentum.
100%.
He had a ton of momentum going into last season.
So with the playoffs, man, I was so excited for Spencer Stastny.
So, Adam Wilsby has kind of become the new Spencer Stastny in terms of the next, along with Tanner Mollendijk, obviously. But let's talk about Mollendijk for a second.
Yeah.
Who do you give a better chance of making the opening night roster, Max? Tanner Mollendijk or Brady Martin? You can't say neither.
I know.
Who do you give a better chance?
Shit, I don't know.
That's a tough one, right?
I'm trying to think.
I was thinking about that earlier, and so I wanted to throw that question to you. I think it's a tough question.
It really is. I'm gonna say, because he's been in the system longer and he has kind of more hype as far as being ready at this point, I'm gonna say Mollendijk.
I would agree.
I gotta flip a coin. I gotta give one.
It is a flip a coin question. You're right.
I'm gonna say
it's a very difficult question.
Yeah,
I would say Mollendijk as well, just because I think this team is very desperate to get the next young playmaker.
Yeah.
And I could see them giving that chance to Mollendijk before they give it to Brady Martin.
Yeah.
Because Brady Martin's a very different type of player.
Whereas
I could see Mollendijk within his first 5 games in the NHL, scoring a goal, making a highlight reel, ending up on NHL Network or whatever you want to call it, ESPN, whatever. Butchie Gross talking about him. Give it 5 games. I think Mollendijk makes a highlight reel. I think Brady Martin's going to take a little bit longer because Brady Martin's game is more in the boards. It's more playing the Colton Sissons role, which is why everyone's mad. Everyone's mad about the 5th overall pick because they think that he's going to be another Colton Sissons. When you hear that comparison, yes, it sounds really bad. No disrespect to Colton Sissons. But I think he's going to eventually end up being better than Colton Sissons. But
better be.
It better be. You're right, Max.
It better be.
But be that as it may, and when it comes to this question, I would say that Tanner Molendyke has a better chance right now to making. Probably, you're right, Max. Probably neither one of them probably do make the roster opening night. I think we see debuts, but I will give you a caveat, and I will ride or die with this. I think both of them make their NHL debuts this year.
Agreed. I hope they do. They better.
Because I don't see the Predators.
Not Martin as much, but I agree. I ultimately agree with what you're saying. I do think
I don't see the Predators actually. So let's get into our next subject here. It's episode 271 of Catfish on Ice. Fun episode. A lot of comments. Let's get Boyd back in here real quick. He says, counterpoint, Martin gets the 9-game test debut and Molendyke starts in Milwaukee. That's fair.
Is Boyd basically saying that Martin comes in like the first 9 games out of the gate?
I think he's just saying like he gets a short little like kind of like what they did with Kimmel. They kind of did that with Fedor Svechkov at first, where they put him down and they just said like it was meant to be temporary. They're gonna give him like a quick little like taste of the NHL,
just kind of see what we have in you, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I get that.
But let's talk about So now that we've talked about what they've done in the offseason, we've talked about the draft. Let's talk about the hierarchy of the Central Division. We're not going to rank every team, but we are going to talk about, do we think the Predators have actually made themselves at least a little bit better? Which is, I mean, how could they get any worse? But you get what I'm saying. They could get worse. They could be worse than the Blackhawks.
It could always get worse, people.
But I put an article on Predlines. Sorry, Mike. I put an article on Predlines, and I did not move them up that much further. But I do think they're going to have more points in the standings. I think they're going to win a few more games. I think they're going to be a little bit of a better team to watch, just like aesthetically pleasing, like maybe to the eye to watch them. I think they might be a little bit more exciting. But I think that ultimately they're not going to have enough talent to hang with the best teams. And they're still going to miss the playoffs. I do think they're going to be like, in February, they might still be in the playoff picture. They might still be kind of like making us think, like, could they go on a run or whatever? I don't think they're going to be a laughing stock. I think they're going to be a lot better. I think I'm banking on UC Saros being a lot better. I'm banking on that defense being a lot better in front of him. I'm banking on Stamkos and Marchessault being a little bit better. Just a little bit. But that's a lot of ifs. And so ultimately, I think they're not a playoff team. But I do think they're going to be a little bit better than last year. Just a little bit.
I tend to be mostly in agreement with that. And I think a big part of, and I think you touched on it a second ago, I do think a big part of the question of whether or not this team is better this coming year is because where I kind of think they will be better is, if you think about it, everybody had a down year for the Preds last year. O'Reilly had a down year. Forsberg even had a down-ish year. Yossi obviously
down-ish.
Had a year.
He wasn't the top guy that had a down year, but
Marshall
he did have
a down year. Stamkos had a bad year. Is everyone going to have that bad of a year again? I don't think so.
Collectively.
At least collectively. But again, for it to go completely right for the Preds, it's like, obviously Yossi's got to come back, have another Norris caliber year. Blankenberg's got to ascend to top pairing status.
I don't think Yossi has to have a Norris caliber year for this team.
I'm talking best case scenario.
Okay.
Best case scenario, like I just said.
Let's start with Brady Shea. Can he
That's what I'm saying. And even
of a resemblance? Can he be somewhat of a resemblance of what he was in Carolina?
Or at least somewhat worth that contract. That's another thing too. Can Hague be worth the deal he just signed? Can Perbix, be good in more than just depth?
I think Perbix is going to be just fine. I think he's going to be a huge upgrade.
My point is with the Preds, when you look at the Preds as a team, I certainly think that they're going to be better because I certainly think that a good few of those guys are going to have better years than they had last year, just because that's kind of how the nature of it works. But in order for best case scenario, literally everybody has to have best case scenario years happen, and it's going to be probably somewhere in the middle. And I agree with you. probably going to be better, but not make the playoffs.
Best case scenario is, best case scenario would be like everyone decides to all play better at the same time, like they did, like opposite of last year where they all played crappy at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't think they're all going to play better at the same time. Like you said, somewhere in the middle. I think the biggest key here is, let's say, here's my key to them being a playoff bubble team again. But let's have our cake and eat it too. I know a lot of fans don't want them to make the playoffs. They want them to suck again next year because apparently next year's draft class is supposed to be better than this year's. I don't get caught up in all that. Like, whatever. Like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for this team to make the playoffs this year or be a playoff bubble team, which I really don't think is honestly that outlandish of an idea.
I don't think it is
If the Predators were to sneak into the playoffs next year as a bubble team, it wouldn't really surprise me that much because that's how this sport works. There's always these few random teams. We're really talking about, can they win a Stanley Cup, the first Stanley Cup of this franchise? And we're all in agreement that they're very far away from that. To win 4 7-game series, yeah, they're a long ways away from that. So even if they do make the playoffs, I think to make the playoffs next year again, or at least be in a playoff bubble scenario, they got to figure out a very, very consistent top 6. I'm talking like consistent, not shuffling it every week, not changing it, which is what happened last season.
Yeah, no.
Brunette's got to have that as his top priority. He's got to figure it out fast. If that's not figured out quick, it's not going to matter how good UC Saros plays. It's not going to matter because they're going to get outscored every game. They're going to basically be, even if the scoring gets a little bit better, they're going to lose every game 4-3 or 4-2 or 5-4. They're not going to be able to hang. So, like, they got to figure out their top 6. They got to do that. If indeed what Barry Trotz is saying, if his dream comes true that he's made the defense better and this team becomes one of those old school teams that becomes a menace to score against, and UC Saros has a Vezina trophy type season and they become a team where it's really hard to score more than 2 goals against them, then yeah, sure, they'll make the playoffs next year. Yeah. But that's a very major if.
Again, so, it's like best case scenario is playing out.
That's kind of like my best case scenario for this team. And also my most realistic scenario is that they become one of those staunch defensive teams in this league, which is very rare these days, where they just become like a menace to score against. Like they become a brick wall on the blue line. Good luck entering our zone. And if you do get in our zone, Saros is going to like deny.
Or you're going to get plastered by one of our defensemen.
Yeah, which they lost Lazan to get Hague, so we'll see how that trade-off works.
Hague's probably a slight upgrade, but again, I'm with you. I'm kind of baffled in the sense that like,
but Perbix is an upgrade.
Yep, he is. You're right.
And he's actually got some sneaky offensive game to him too.
Yeah, no, he does.
I'm not saying he's going to come out here and score a bunch of goals for us. All I'm saying is he can provide some stuff. So we'll see how that goes. I think the defense is definitely upgraded, and but they have a lot to sort out. And then when it comes to the offense, it's just like, I mean, really, like I don't think they can hang with the big boys, but could they, best case scenario, realistically, could they be a playoff team next year? Sure, they could. I don't think that's really that crazy to say they could make the playoffs next year.
I don't think they will, but I think they could be in that discussion for a bit.
They could lose in the first round again next year. I mean, they could return back to square one, which is where they've been for a long time in their franchise's history, which is a first round punching bag. I mean, they could do that. It's not going to make the fans feel any better. And you'll be back to square one again where you don't have a great draft pick. But that's why Brady Martin in this past draft class is so important. Because you've had a couple of draft classes now where the jury is still out on these guys. Fedor Svechkov's a big one. Joakim Kimmel's a big one. Tanner Mollendijk's a big one. If all these guys end up following a positive track, then in 3 or 4 years, the Predators could actually graduate these guys into being NHL All-Stars possibly. So they're very far away from getting the fruits of their labor when it comes to their past draft classes. These things take a long time. You're not going to get instant gratification from these draft classes. And I would say going back to 2022, we still don't exactly know how those draft classes are going. Before that, yeah, you got the 2020 draft class hurts a lot. Philip Tomasino, Yaroslav Askarov, yeah, those draft picks hurt. Those hurt bad. Yeah, Ellie Tolvanen before that hurts bad. That still stings. So I don't know. This team's got a lot to prove. Luke Evangelista. Let's end the episode with this, Max. Luke Evangelista. I read an article. I shared it with you in a text message before we went on live today, Max. A lot of confusion out there in terms of he got a qualifying offer from the Preds already. The deadline was today to where that qualifying offer expires, but it doesn't mean that the Preds lose him. Yeah. It just means that they're going to have to put out another offer, right?
Yeah, no. Let me just say, and I'm not going to spend too much time picking on the guy who wrote this, but I do think he did a very terrible job providing context, because that right there could have really it confused me at first too, because I'm like, wow, I've never heard such a thing. But basically, it seems like the qualifying offer itself, the Preds have made Luke Evangelista expire tomorrow. Then they just have to renegotiate. They just have to do. It's basically standard negotiation. Like, he was never going to take that offer anyway. I mean, in the grand scheme, it seems like it's really non-news. And again, I personally, seeing it now, I'm not concerned yet, but I am in the back of my mind. I do have my radar up a little bit that an offer sheet could be coming. That's what I'm kind of worried about a little bit.
Yeah. Joel says on Facebook, Preds are not even close to moving up. They're just above Chicago. We kind of glossed over that. So if we just real quick, let's talk about the Central Division. Like, we don't have to get deep into every team, but I'll give you a quick rundown real quick of how I feel about it. My team that I actually think, judging off how the offseason has gone so far, I think the Avalanche are my top team. Dallas is taking a little bit of a hit, but I still have them up there.
And they might trade Jason Robertson.
But I think that Dallas's window is starting to close, and they're in panic mode. I'm not saying their window's closed. They're still going to be in the picture next year, but they're realizing, Jamie Benn's coming back. They still got Tyler Seguin, but like, their window is kind of closing in on them, and they're realizing whereas Colorado, I think Colorado keeps kind of moving with the times. They're going to be around for a while. Even though Colorado did, they were a disappointment in these past playoffs, losing the first round. They did go to 7, but
against Dallas, but yeah,
I still got Colorado number 1 in my division. But Dallas is still up there. Here's my team in the Central that I think is about to make a big jump. Maybe I'm not even really that hot take-ish to say this, but Utah. Everyone watch out for Utah. They've had a great offseason. They're getting better. They were a mess to deal with last year. I really love the young core of their team with Clayton Keller, with Nick Schmaltz, with some of the other guys they've picked up lately. They are going to be a good team. I like Vejmelka in goal for them. Utah's going to make some noise this year.
Amazing what happens, how a team outlook changes when shitty ownership is removed.
I would not be surprised at all if Utah is in the top
not at all
next year.
Not at all.
So they're a big mover for me. Here's a big dropper for me that I actually think maybe helps the Preds move up a little bit in the division. And this is just me in the offseason. I could be totally wrong on this. I think that Minnesota is about to go through a really rough time.
Yeah, I could see it. And
you look at their offseason, it's not impressive at all.
And one thing I've talked about before, and I don't know how it's going to work out, are they going to get John Hines in one of his cold streaks or one of his hot streaks? Because you remember when he was in the Preds, he was a very streaky coach.
Yeah. So I could see the Preds jumping ahead of Minnesota, maybe being a 6th place team. St. Louis is always that team. I never know what they're going to give us. So I think the Preds are going to be in the middle. They're not going to be as bad as last year, but they're also not going to be a Stanley Cup contender by any means. Right. And they'll have a chance to maybe make the playoffs. That's kind of how I feel about it. They're going to be back to square one where they used to be, when the fans used to always get so annoyed that every year they'd barely squeak into the playoffs and they lose in the first round. I feel like they could be that similar style team. And honestly, if that happens, while they're letting the young players play, I will be totally happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how it happens, but
how it happens. You're right, Max.
If we're a wildcard team that lost in the first round or barely missed, but you have strong steps forward from guys like Svechkov, Evangelista, Zach Leroux, I'm looking at that.
You'll be happy.
I'll look at that like, okay,
we'll take that. Yeah. So that's kind of that. I think that's the best case scenario for this team right now.
Yeah.
Is that those guys that you just mentioned take big steps forward. They're a big contribution to this team improving from last year. That's what we want to see, and I think the fans will be very happy with that. I could see this team improving into the 80s points range, moving ahead of Minnesota. I'm not trying to beat up on the Blackhawks, even though I'm biased. Here's my objective feeling about the Blackhawks. They are so bad and they are so beaten down that it's taking them a long, long time. You think the Predators are a mess. The Blackhawks, and some people are trying to say that they didn't even, I mean, they got Anton Frondell, which is like one of my favorite draft picks of this draft class. So I actually think they had a good draft to get him. But you look at the Blackhawks roster right now, you think the Preds roster is a mess? Look at the Blackhawks right now. They have no depth. They have nothing on defense. They don't have much at all in net either between the pipes. So you can look at their roster and say, yeah, they got some young talent, they got some prospects, whatnot. But until those guys prove it, I mean, I feel like the Blackhawks are probably going to be a 7th or 8th place team again. It's Minnesota that I'm really like, they could be a last place team next year. I mean, I have no hatred or personal bias towards Minnesota. That's just how I see it objectively when I look at every team and what they've done this offseason. I could actually see Minnesota being the worst team in this division next year, and maybe Chicago improves themselves a little bit. Maybe Nashville improves themselves a little bit. Maybe St. Louis remains in that same little middle area that they've always been in. But I think that the cream of the crop of the Central Division will be there again next year for the most part. But I got Utah being my big riser.
There you go. I honestly haven't looked enough at the rosters yet to really know what I think, but most of what you're saying makes sense. And I did think Utah had some good moves as well.
And when it comes to Evangelista and how I feel about that, I mean, it does have me a little weirded out a little bit that it's taken this long to figure something out, only because it shouldn't be that complicated. I mean, the guy is getting his first standard contract in the NHL.
Right.
He's graduating from ELC status. Yeah. So why is this so complicated? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. And what it tells me is, and I could be totally wrong, maybe I'm misreading this, but something tells me that the organization is not as high on Evangelista as we all are.
Not going to go there yet. I'm just at this moment. I'm just going to assume it's playing out right now. It's only July. Once it gets to later August, I might. But in July, I'm not going to freak out there yet. Personally,
the fact that he's already been given an offer and he hasn't taken it is weird.
It's a qualifying offer, though. Qualifying offers are nothing. It's the bare minimum you have to give him. He was never taking his qualifying offer.
What has he really proven, though, Max? I mean, what has he really done? I mean, he hasn't really taken off that much.
I mean, he had a really strong end of the year.
He had a strong end of the year. Great.
His first 2 years were pretty good. He showed progression in his second year. I'm not as worried. I'm not, again, I'm only going to worry until an offer sheet comes, but right now, I assume it's playing out. I think, and Trotz talked about it too. Like, I can't remember who it was that was on what side. I think it might have been his side who wanted a shorter deal. Sharks wanted a longer deal. It was something along those lines. I think one wanted the other, but I just think right now I tend to think it's just the negotiation playing itself out. I'm not totally.
That's fair, and I hope so, because I mean I think Evangelista is very important to this to the future rebuild of this organization. You lose Evangelista, it is another really really ugly blow.
It's a
to this
black
organization.
Eye, a black
I mean, on top of Tomasino, on top of Tolvanen, on top of Fabro, on top of Cody Glass, on top of all those guys. If you add another one to the pile when it comes to that's going to be bad.
Yeah. No, but I mean, as of right now, though, with the qualifying offer, again, the qualifying offer is meant to be nothing more than the bare minimum to keep him off the open market.
Okay, so riddle me this, Max. I get it, but riddle me this. If the organization really appreciated him and wanted him, why would they not just go ahead and call me old school, but I don't get it.
That's typically not how negotiations work, though, with any RFA. Every organization kind of gives a qualifying offer, and then they kind of negotiate. I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary going on with Evangelista.
All right, I hope you're right. I mean, I get that that's normal practice, but at the same time, the way this organization operates, I don't know, man. The way they've treated
I get it from the. I mean, I obviously
the way they've treated other players in the past.
I get the PTSD, but this individual circumstance, like pretty much every guy in his status gets a qualifying offer, and then it plays itself out.
All right. Well, I hope it works out. What do you think he deserves? For me, I've always said around $4 million. I would give him.
I'm going to say that both sides should come to a compromise on a 3x3. I think that's really simple, easy for everyone.
All right. I hope you're right. I mean, you definitely need. I mean, I don't know what the tie-up is. I know it's standard practice, but at the same time, like for me, like if you believe in this guy and like, I don't understand why it has to be stretched out. Like, let's not and here's another thing that makes me think this is weird. We're not talking about a team that doesn't have cap space.
Right.
Predators have $10 million in cap space right now. So we're not talking about a team like the Lightning or some of these other teams who like literally have pennies on the dollar to re-sign players. You're talking about a team like the Predators who have plenty of money, more than enough money to say, I get it. I get what you're saying, Max. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is I disagree with the practice.
Sure.
I disagree with the practice. I think it's bad faith. I think it's despicable because this team has more than enough money. We already know that NHL players make way less than any of it. They still make more money than I'll ever make, but the NHL players make less than any of these other sports. And if you really covet Luke Evangelista and you think he's the future of your one of the futures of your rebuild or whatever it is you call it these days, retool, whatever, I disagree with the practice. I get that it happens, and you're probably right, Max, if that's what's going on. But it's a bad look. I think it's a bad look because if you really care about Evangelista, you can get this done tomorrow easily. You can get it done. I mean, you've got the money. If you care about the kid and you think he's important to your franchise, what are you trying to save? 1 year, 1 million, whatever. The salary cap's going up. I mean, but all 32 NHL franchises are about to have a lot more cap space to work with every year. So it's going to turn into the league's making money. So the league's about to be much more of a league where free agency is going to be much more interesting. I think players are going to start moving way more than they used to. It's going to be one of those Wild West leagues, kind of like the NBA, not exactly like the NBA, but it's going to start moving to more like the NBA, where guys don't stay loyal anymore. When these salary caps go up, guys are going to go for the bag. They're going to go for the big cash bag. That's why I appreciate what Aaron Ekblad did with the Florida Panthers. He took a pay cut. He stayed with his team. He's like, I like winning. I like winning Stanley Cups. So, but the way I feel about this Evangelista thing is, if that's really what's going on, we're arguing over a year here or $1 million there. when we're talking about a player that's just dumb to me. It's horrible practice to me. And I hope that eventually soon we'll get a contract negotiated. We'll get it figured out, because I was playing devil's advocate, Max, when I said, what has Evangelista really done? I was kind of playing devil's advocate there. I agree with you, Max. He has done a lot. He's done what he's been dealt on a pretty bad team that he's been a part of. Yeah. I was at the Panthers game when he played his second NHL game. I met his girlfriend's parents at the Florida Panthers game down in Sunrise, Florida. It was a really cool experience. And so like I'm a big believer in this. I mean, he scored a goal in that game. So it was really cool to like tag his maybe his future father-in-law's hand. I don't know if I hope they're still together, but with the girl. But either way, it was cool. And I mean, I'm a big believer in Luke Evangelista. I think he could be a franchise changer for us. But I don't like operating in bad faith, and this front office has no room to operate when it comes to operating in bad faith, because they've done a lot of young players wrong. And so, like you said, Max, I do have a little PTSD.
I get what you're saying. And I get you not totally agreeing with the practice, but personally, I'm not reading into it nearly as much. I think this is very standard practice among pretty much all players on all teams in his status. So I'm right now in the boat of let's let this play out and see what happens. I would
love for him to get 3 years, though. I love that term. 3 years would be a very fair term for him to get.
3 by 3.
And then if he does, once that does get done, he's got to be top 6.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I think he's top 6 on a roster like this with where we're at.
Yeah,
I think he's got to be in the top 6 of the lineup. If you re-sign him like that, definitely for 3 years, he's in the top 6. You really don't have a lot of options on the right wing to begin with. And so we will wait later in the season for another episode to really dive into lineup predictions and all that. So we don't really want to get into that. We're at over an hour. We're almost at an hour and a half with this episode. But I do think Evangelista, once he does finally get his new deal with the Preds, I think he's top 6 to start the season. That should be a done deal. And then, you got Ryan O'Reilly and probably Steven Stamkos and Fedor Svechkov all figuring out who plays centers. So you got 2 spots for 3 centers to figure out. Svechkov's got to prove it. He's got to overtake it. I've seen lineup predictions that says that Stamkos is going to be a top line center and O'Reilly is going to be second line. So no one really knows. But Svechkov's going to go out there and also prove it in training camp. So we'll save that for when we get closer to training camp. Yep. And there's going to be a lot of debate to be had about healthy roster competition with this team that finished 30th last year in the standings in the NHL. So when you finish 30th in the NHL, you better have roster competition. It's not like we're talking about a team where everyone played well and everyone's feeling good. And it's like, oh yeah, there better be a lot of roster competition with this team in training camp. So it's going to be fun to watch from that perspective. Yeah. So with that said, no sponsor tonight. If you listen to the podcast and you're watching tonight and you have a small business and you would like to reach out to us, we would love to sponsor you. We'd love to put you on our channel and tell our listeners about your business. Just reach out to us on X through our Catfish on Ice account, or you can reach out to me or Max on our social media accounts. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to reach out to a local Nashville business and feature you in our podcast. So until then, Max, let's get out of here, man. Yeah. And we'll keep chugging along in this off season. And before you know it, you're going to be so busy covering the Titans and the Predators at the same time. Yeah, you won't have any time.
Yeah, no, I feel like I have a lot of time now. I won't have it in a few months.
Nope. So enjoy it now, Max.
That's the grind.
And in case our listeners don't know, Max covers the Titans as well for Titan Size, and he's my go-to source. And the Titans are going to have a really interesting season as well. It's kind of similar to the Predators in a way. Like, they're a young team, and they got Cam Ward coming in, and I can't wait to watch Cam Ward play. So we will get another Titans Time segment in the next episode once we get further into that time of year. And so until then, everyone, we appreciate you. Please hit subscribe on Facebook and YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify, and always throw us a comment. We always appreciate you. Thank you for everyone who threw us the live comments tonight on our live stream. Yep. We love all of you. Anytime you guys get in on the episode, it makes the episode so much better. And you guys make the episode for us. So we appreciate you guys as well. Stay safe, everyone, in this really crazy world we live in. We love all of you. Take care. See you later.
You guys.